Sláinte na fear agus na namá go deo. Daras anam dom agus fáilte rih the world that was. This week was St. Patrick's Day, a worldwide Irish holiday, so I decided to make myself some medieval Irish beef stew to celebrate. Ireland, being a huge producer of beef and dairy products, relied on these foodstuffs from antiquity to today. This recipe is actually an adaptation from a reconstruction made by Maeve L'Estrange, who is a culinary archaeologist from University College Dublin. In any case, let's now take a look at the world that was. To begin with, we need to prepare our onions. Halve and mince a whole onion. Toss a few pads of butter, preferably an Irish brand because I'm totally not biased here, into a large pot. Place this over a medium-high heat until it melts. Toss your chopped onions into this and let them saute away for a few minutes, stirring occasionally. While this is happening, go cut your meat into small cubes. Beef would only have been eaten somewhat regularly by the invading Anglo-Normans and later English settlers in the Pale area around Dublin, as they would have been rich enough to afford such luxuries at the expense of the indigenous populations. So this is definitely a recipe suited for richer palates, at least in antiquity. In any case, toss your cubed beef into the pot with the onions when your onions have turned soft and translucent and very fragrant. Let your beef sear for a couple of minutes per side until you can no longer see red meat. Don't worry, we'll be cooking this through later. At this point, pour in 500 milliliters worth of water on top of everything, just so the meat is just about covered by the water. Bring this to a rolling boil over a high heat. When it hits a boil, turn the heat down to low and let it simmer away for about an hour. Foam might form on the surface of this, but it's still edible, it's just denatured proteins. You can of course ladle this off if you want to, but I didn't. It's unknown if this was removed in antiquity. After an hour, add your salt, pepper and cloves to the pot, and give it a stir. Also toss in your head of parsley. Leave all of this to simmer for about 10 minutes while you combine your breadcrumbs and vinegar in a small bowl. Depending on your tastes, you can use more or less vinegar than I did. I only used about 2 tablespoons here. In any case, toss your breadcrumbs back into the pot and stir it around. By doing so, the pottage should take on a lighter coloration, but this is completely fine. Let this simmer away until the meat is very tender and the breadcrumbs absorb water and make it act like a porridge. Serve this up warm over a chunk of bread, preferably a stale hard bread, and dig in warm. Chunks of bread would have been used as a plate in antiquity, which you would have then eaten or fed to an animal or dog. The finished dish is super filling and has an extraordinarily meaty flavour, which was really amplified by the vinegar. It's fairly simple to make and requires very little time to prepare, and since it's a pottage, it can be left on a low heat for several hours in order to tenderize the meat, as was common with many pottages from the medieval period. The whole thing might seem fairly plain in terms of spices and seasonings, but this is mainly due to the fact that spices were not very common in Irish culinary traditions for centuries, given the cost of having to import valuable spices from the Mediterranean world to a very small island in the Atlantic. However, herbs such as rosemary and parsley would have been used in abundance, given that they were native to the island. Beef is also one of Ireland's most important resources, given how the country has large amounts of pastoral land and archaic law codes make reference to cattle very frequently. They even form the core of some mythological cycles, such as the Táin Bó Cúailnge. Beef would have been an annual staple in the diets of the Irish settlements prior to the colonisation of the island by its neighbours. In any case, I hope you all enjoyed this look at the world that was. I hope you all had a wonderful St. Patrick's Day, and I hope to see you all next week.